Ichika is a high school boy who just started attending Infinite Stratos Academy, a special academy that trains students to pilot a mechanical suit called Infinite Stratos. Somehow, Ichika is the only boy in the world who can pilot Infinite Stratos, so he becomes very popular at the otherwise all-girls academy. But all the girls shower him with attention. Ichika doesn't appreciate being the only guy in the entire school. Meanwhile, his big sister Chifuyu also teaches at the school as a famous pilot. She is helped by an assistant teacher named Maya. Meanwhile, Ichika has trouble fitting into the academy, which becomes awkward when he finds out his dorm roommate is his childhood friend Hoki, who he has not seen for 6 years. She is angry at him for seemingly forgetting her, but starts to forgive him when Ichika shows he still remembered her after all these years. While Ichika continues to struggle at the academy, HSI classmates want him to be their class representative. The famous British pilot Cecilia disagrees because she beat an instructor in combat during their entrance examinations. After Ichika also tells her that he beat an instructor, she becomes offended and challenges him to a duel to be the class representative, and he will be her servant if he loses. Cecilia brags about her personal is that she will use for the duel. The Chifuyu tells Ichika that he'll get his own personal is as well. Personal is units are rare because their cores are specially made by Dr. Tabane, who also happens to be Hoki's sister, but Tabane is missing, which makes it difficult to make more units. Ichika recognizes he doesn't have much of a chance against Seclia, so he asks Hoki to help train him because she is a famous kendo practitioner. She agrees to train him after other girls express interest in Ichika, although her training is harsh since he never did physical activity before. On the day of the duel, Ichika gets a special is called Byakushiki to battle Cecilia, and her is Blue Tears. At first, Cecilia easily starts winning by keeping her distance with sniping, but Ichika is able to quickly overcome the distance and use his energy sword. Unfortunately, his sword uses up his shield energy too fast and he loses just as he is about to hit Cecilia, causing him to lose the duel. Since Ichika can improve more, he agrees to more training with Hoki, and although Cecilia won, she is a bit uncertain about how the duel went. Soon Cecilia starts to like Ichika and lets him be the class representative to apologize for acting immature before, as she has started to appreciate his determination. Hoki isn't very happy about this. The next day, Ichika meets Lingyan, a new student from China. They actually knew each other when they were kids, and Lingyan is also the class representative for her class. When Ichika and Lingyan spend time together to catch up, Hoki and Cecilia start to feel jealous. Meanwhile, Lingyan finds out that Hoki is Ichika's roommate, and tries to become his roommate instead, but Hoki refuses to swap with her. Later, Lingyan gets mad and leaves when Ichika can't remember a promise they made when they were kids. She decides to settle their dispute with a match in the upcoming tournament. So, Ichika gets ready for his upcoming fight against Lingyan, and her unit called Shenlong. Soon the class tournament starts and Ichika and Lingyan have their planned fight. Although Ichika has improved due to his training, he is outclassed by Lingyan's aerial combat abilities and her greater skill over her is. Ichika tries to utilize the training and advice given to him by his sister Chifuyu and Hoki, and he starts to improve. Suddenly the duel is interrupted when a strange unit attacks the arena. A worried Lingyan tells him the match is cancelled, and orders him to retreat due to the danger. But after Ichika helps her avoid an attack, they agree to work together to keep the invading away from the audience so their classmates can get to safety. While fighting the strange they determine it is actually an unmanned drone called a golem because of the way it acts like a machine. Although Ichika and Lingyan buy time for their classmates, they struggle against the golem, so Cecilia quickly suits up in her own to help them. With Cecilia's help, the three of them are able to beat the golem, but Ichika gets hurt in the process. Later, Ichika finds Lingyan watching over him too closely. She tells him that he was the only one who was injured. Ichika thinks he remembers the promise he had made to Lingyan when they were in elementary school together, but an embarrassed Lingyan changes the subject. Meanwhile, Chifuyu and Maya study the golem together and discover that it was a remote-controlled unit. They also find that it uses a special core that is not one of the 467 cores that are supposed to exist created by Dr. Tabane, and they wonder how this exists and who created it. Later they find out that Hoki has been given her own room, and Ichika pretends not to understand why she is upset about this. Hoki's feelings get hurt and she makes him promise that they will go on a date together if she wins the next tournament. Unfortunately, this eventually gets misheard by their classmates and it becomes a rumor that the winner of the next tournament gets to have a date with Ichika. Meanwhile, Ichika is shocked to discover that another boy seems to have gained the ability to pilot like him, Charles, who is his new roommate. The news of another boy at the school soon spreads, so Ichika has to help Charles escape a lot of girls that want to date both of them. Later at school, Chifuyu decides to have Cecilia and Lingyan improve on their combat by practicing against Maya. But even though the two girls have much newer and more sophisticated as models, they find themselves easily defeated by the assistant teacher. Later at lunch, the girls compete to share their food with Ichika, and although embarrassed, he tells them honestly that Hoki's food is the best, which makes Cecilia and Lingyan very unhappy. The next day, the class gets a surprise transfer student from Germany named Laura. Laura is another famous pilot who is friends with Chifuyu, but when she arrives she slaps Ichika and tells him that she refuses to believe that he is Chifuyu's brother. One day while Ichika is training with Charles, who is in his unit the Raphael Revive, he gets challenged to a duel by Laura and turns down her request to her anger. On his way to his dorm room, Ichika sees Chifuyu standing up to Laura. Laura wants Chifuyu to go back to Germany because she doesn't think the academy is good enough for Chifuyu to teach at. It turns out that in the past Chifuyu had given up an important championship to save Ichika, who had been kidnapped during the event, but her actions may have cost her a promising career. Later, Ichika accidentally walks in on Charles in the shower and realizes that Charles is actually a girl. Charles explains that her family's business was in trouble because of the demand for the third generation is models. She was told to act like a boy to get attention for the company, and to steal data from those models. Ichika decides to keep this a secret to keep Charles safe since the academy has special rules for diplomacy, and he doesn't want to create an international incident. Meanwhile, Laura's anger at Ichika reaches a boiling point as Chifuyu continues to insist on staying at the academy. She takes off her eye patch to show her golden left eye, and swears to get revenge on Ichika. Meanwhile, Hoki feels pressure to win the upcoming tournament because of the rumor she accidentally started where the winner gets to go on a date with Ichika. Cecilia and Lingyan are getting ready to practice together when Laura shows up in her unit the Schwarzer region and challenges them to a 2-on-1 fight. Laura proves to be the superior pilot as she easily blocks all their moves and is able to outmaneuver 2 of them. But when she keeps aggressively attacking them to the point they get into real danger, Ichika and Charles arrive to help just in time. Before things can escalate, Chifuyu intervenes and asks that they settle the differences in another tournament. Meanwhile, the next tournament is announced, but the format has been changed to be a tournament fought 2-on-2. Since Ichika needs a partner, he decides to pick Charles. The other contestants draw names randomly to decide on who their partners will be, and Hoki ends up with Laura as her partner, and that their first opponents will be Ichika and Charles. The match starts and Laura exclusively focuses on fighting Ichika while ignoring her partner Hoki. Since Laura doesn't care about anything except attacking Ichika, Charles is able to use her distraction by disabling Hoki. With the resulting battle becoming a 2-on-1, Ichika and Charles use the teamwork they have been practicing to wear down the superior Laura and weaken her shields. The match becomes close when Ichika also uses up all his shield energy to nearly defeat Laura. But right before she is defeated, Laura remembers her past as a failed soldier and how she was inspired by Chifuyu. Now that Chifuyu has changed due to her brother's influence, Laura's mental psyche breaks and she loses control of her which turns into a dark Infinite Stratos with much higher combat capabilities. Charles and Ichika are overwhelmed, so Charles gives the last of her energy to Ichika to allow him to use his energy sword. Ichika is then able to fight the Dark and save Laura. While Laura is recovering, Chifuyu explains the danger of Dark and tells Laura that she needs to find her own path. Since the match disrupted the tournament is cancelled. Then Ichika decides to go on a date with Hoki anyway. Meanwhile, Charles tells Ichika that she's going to try to stay at the school and use her real name Charlotte and no longer pretend to be a boy. But when Lingyan finds out, she goes to confront Charlotte because of how close she has gotten to Ichika. But suddenly Laura arrives and kisses Ichika, shocking everyone as she announces that she is going to marry him. Later, Hoki decides to call her sister Tabane for help, and her sister reveals that she had created a personal unit called Akatsubaki just for Hoki. Meanwhile, the girls try to get Ichika's attention, and he gets beat up by Hoki after Laura sneaks into his room during the night. Ichika decides to go with Charlotte to the mall to buy swimsuits for an upcoming beach study session, but they are followed by Cecilia, Lingyan, and Laura. When Charlotte notices them following her, she hides with Ichika in the dressing room to show off her swimsuit, but they are eventually discovered by Chifuyu and Meyer instead. During the beach study session, each of the girls tries to get close with Ichika, but each of their plans backfire. The students and staff then enjoy a game of beach volleyball. As sunset arrives, Chifuyu talks with Hoki about Tabane, telling her that Hoki's personal will soon arrive with Tabane. Days later, the competition over Ichika heats up as the girls later find Ichika and Hoki together. Meanwhile, Chifuyu talks to them about their feelings for her brother and gives them advice. The next day, the missing Dr. Tabane comes to give them the Akatsubaki, which is a super advanced 4th generation model. But Hoki can practice a lot with her new model. Chifuyu suddenly gets a message from Maya saying an unmanned is called the Silver Gospel, made by the United States, and Israel, is out of control. Chifuyu orders the group to hunt down the rampaging model and stop it. Ichika and Hoki will chase it because they're the only ones with 4th generation models, which are faster than the 3rd generation ones the others have. But Ichika is nervous because this is his first real mission. As Ichika and Hoki start their mission, the others notice that Hoki looks unusually happy, so Chifuyu tells Ichika to pay close attention to Hoki. While they're fighting the Silver Gospel, Ichika sees an illegal fishing ship and goes to protect it. This causes Ichika to mess up the plan they made to beat Silver Gospel, but Ichika scolds her for not caring about the safety of the civilians on the ship. Ichika is also disturbed, because Hoki's is usually much kinder and would normally care about the lives on the ship. Suddenly, the Silver Gospel attacks them, so Ichika shields Hoki with his own body. In the chaos, Hoki's hair ribbon gets burned and Ichika gets hurt so badly that he quickly has to be taken in for treatment. Hoki blames herself for their failed mission, and for allowing Ichika to get hurt, and she wants to quit being in his pilot. But the other girls manage to convince her not to quit. They decide to all go together to defeat the Silver Gospel against Chifuyu's orders to wait. While the girls are fighting the Silver Gospel, Ichika has a dream where he gets power from a little girl and a warrior woman. He decides he wants to protect his friends. Meanwhile at the battle, Hoki cuts one of the Silver Gospel's wings, but it comes back with empowered angel wings and defeats the girls. Ichika wakes up from his dream and arrives from the battle with his unit. He wakes up a defeated Hoki, and gives her a new hair ribbon for her birthday, and she starts to cry. Led by Ichika, the girls work together to destroy the Silver Gospel using their different skills. Eventually, they distract the unit enough for Ichika to land a devastating hit that destroys Silver Gospel. Back at the hotel, Chifuyu scolds them for not following orders, but she lets them rest as a reward. Before Tabane disappears again, Chifuyu realizes that Tabane didn't just let Ichika be the only guy at the school by chance. She discovers that Tabane made the Silver Gospel go crazy on purpose to show off the power of her new unit Akatsubaki, and had planned everything all along. Meanwhile at the beach, Hoki apologizes to Ichika for getting hurt, and she confesses to him. Ichika tries to kiss her, but the other girls interrupt because they're jealous and Ichika is forced to carry Hoki to safety. One night, Ichika has a strange dream where a woman attacks him and strangles him to death. He gets woken up by German transfer student Laura, who excitedly asks if he would join her in going to a new water park. But Ichika unintentionally offends her when he suggests that they invite all the other girls to the park as well, and an angry Laura leaves him. Later, Laura and Charlotte are shopping at the mall together when they accidentally end up as models for a clothing store, and then they end up accidentally saving hostages at a maid cafe. The two of them celebrate their victories with crepes together, but at the same time, a mysterious female spy breaches a research facility in England to steal a top-secret Infinite Stratos called Silent Zephyrus. Meanwhile, Ichika and the rest of the girls go to the water park to relax, although they compete over his attention, and are angry that Ichika invited each of them alone, so they each assumed that the water park was a solo date with him. In the end, they still have a fun time at the park as they watch fireworks together, and eventually celebrate the end of summer vacation. Later, their teacher Chifuyu and the assistant teacher Meyer are notified of the breach in England. The school year begins and Ichika returns to training. After a practice session against Lingyan, he ends up late to class where he is scolded by his teacher Chifuyu, who is also his older sister. Chifuyu orders Charlotte to formalize a punishment for Ichika, and she agrees happily. Later at the school assembly, Ichika formally meets Totanashi, the president of the student council at the academy. Totanashi has been assigned to protect him, and she is the strongest Infinite Stratos user at the academy. Meanwhile, the class is tasked with coming up with an event for the upcoming school festival, and Laura proposes that the class run a maid cafe. At the same time, Ichika challenges Totanashi to a duel after he learns of her mission, but is quickly defeated by her combat strength. Later, a recovering Ichika has a strange dream that seems to resemble Hoki when he is suddenly awoken by Totanashi and Laura. Totanashi helps Ichika train his piloting skills using an advanced technique called Circle Rondo, and she asks Cecilia and Charlotte to help teach him. Although Totanashi tries to give Ichika advice on the new technique, he ultimately fails and slams into a nearby wall. After the brutal training session, the girls try to cheer up Ichika, but the exhausted pilot just falls asleep instead. In the morning, Totanashi coerces Ichika into giving her a massage, much to his embarrassment. Later, during the school festival, Lingyan pays a visit to the maid cafe where Ichika works as a butler. She orders a wine glass filled with chocolate sticks that come with a special twist she gets to personally feed Ichika. However, her mood quickly sours, and she slaps him before hastily departing in embarrassment when he compares her eating habits to a cute squirrel. Things take an uncomfortable turn for Ichika when he encounters Reiko, a saleswoman promoting new Infinite Stratos equipment. She makes him feel uneasy by urging him to try out her company's equipment. During his break, Cecilia leads Ichika to the brass band exhibition, where her attempt at an indirect kiss with a French horn fails spectacularly. Later, Totanashi forces Ichika into playing the role of the prince in the student council's rendition of Cinderella. What he doesn't know is that whoever manages to seize his crown during the performance gains the privilege of living with him. Ichika finds himself under constant bombardment from the girls, surviving the crazy shenanigans of the play, which involves dodging booby traps set by Totanashi and being pursued by unexpected contestants. The situation takes a dramatic turn when Reiko kidnaps Ichika under the stage in the locker room, driven by the desire to steal his Infinite Stratos. Reiko unleashes the Iraq, revealing her true identity as Autumn from the clandestine organization known as Phantom Task. After subduing Ichika, Autumn discloses that it was Phantom Task that was responsible for his first abduction from the academy. She forcibly attempts to seize the Byakushiki, the Infinite Stratos unit given to him. In the sky, Cecilia and Lingyan take on another Phantom Task agent called M who uses the Silent Zephyrus. Meanwhile, Totanashi employs the Mysterious Lady, equipped with nanomachines that manipulate water in various forms, to confront Autumn in the locker room. As Ichika pursues Autumn outside, he encounters M, who successfully blocks his path. M and Autumn withdraw just as Hoki, Charlotte, and Laura join the fray as they are quickly outnumbered. Meanwhile, Maya provides Chifuyu with intelligence indicating that the Silent Zephyrus was the second Infinite Stratos unit stolen from England. Later at an undisclosed location, Autumn chastises M for her interference, but they are interrupted by Squall Musil, the leader of Phantom Task. M awaits her chance for revenge while gazing at a locket containing a photograph of Chifuyu. Later, Totanashi not only discloses her mission to protect Ichika, but also reveals the hidden agenda behind the prince's crown, which she now possesses. Since Ichika is troubled by the attack from Phantom Task, Meyer asks him to attend an event where each of the girls would like to perform a skill for him. The event starts with Hoki, who fails at performing a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. Up next is Cecilia, who plays games with Ichika while dressed as a bunny, and Charlotte, who gives him cookies. Finally, Chifuyu gives him a sundae and reveals that the event was a surprise birthday party for him. Liar asks which of the girls performed the best, and Ichika ends up picking Chifuyu, which makes everyone else incredibly angry. Later, Ichika encounters M from Phantom Tasks, who formally introduces herself as Madoka Orimura, his twin sister that he has no knowledge about. She attacks him but is quickly shielded just in time by Laura. Madoka decides not to press the attack and retreat, leaving a confused Ichika. Some time later, Ichika offers to assist Charlotte in safeguarding Infinite Stratos equipment at the port. However, they encounter a pair of pilots armed with rifles, and suddenly one of the pilots triggers an explosion, and in a selfless act, Ichika shields Charlotte from the blast. Yet, when Ichika is advised to retrieve his Infinite Stratos, the mech Byakushiki back at the academy due to an identified anomaly, it sets a series of events in motion. Hoki, Cecilia, and Lingyan successfully coax the truth about the Byakushiki situation from Charlotte, and this revelation leads to a spirited contest among the three, each vying for the coveted role of Ichika's bodyguard. However, Totanashi intervenes to reprimand the trio for causing a ruckus within the school premises. Later, Totanashi watches her younger sister Kanzashi, who is feeling downcast because the delivery of her personal Infinite Stratos, the Uchigane Nishiki, was delayed due to the company focusing on Ichika's mech Byakushiki. Ichika and Hoki receive an invitation from Karako Meizumi, the vice president of the newspaper club, offering dinner tickets as a bribe to feature them exclusively in a magazine dedicated to personal as pilots. Subsequently, the two undergo a personal interview and a photo shoot hosted by Keiruko's elder sister, Nagasako Meizumi. Curious about Madoka, Ichika later asks Chifuyu about the possibility of having other siblings, and she firmly responds that she is his only family member. Later, with a tag match tournament on the horizon, Lingyan and Charlotte make an effort to win Ichika's favor through culinary skill, while attempting to find out the type of partner he likes. Totanashi entrusts Kanzashi to Ichika for the impending tag match competition. However, when Ichika approaches Kanzashi with the partnership proposal, she angrily declines to work with him. Ichika faces Kanzashi's frustration when his persistence in becoming her partner leads to a sharp slap. Later, he encounters difficulties while seeking maintenance assistance for the Uchigane Nishiki, as Kanzashi had personally assembled it. As Ichika remains resolute about teaming up with Kanzashi for the upcoming tag match tournament, the girls intensify their training efforts, determined to make him pay for not selecting them as his partner. Later, Totanashi, plotting to partner with Hoki, takes the opportunity to assess Hoki's physical abilities. To her astonishment, she discovers that Hoki's proficiency has already reached an impressive level. Meanwhile, Kanzashi takes her Uchigane Nishiki for a test run, only to face a malfunction. Ichika comes to her rescue, preventing a catastrophic crash and leading to a change of heart in Kanzashi. Indirectly, she agrees to become his partner. Ichika shares crucial data from the Byakushiki to facilitate enhancements to the Uchigane Nishiki, with the maintenance students enthusiastically offering their assistance. Upon returning to his dorm, Totanashi requests another massage from Ichika and explains that Chifuyu's strictness stems from her genuine concern for him. Meanwhile, Kanzashi hopes to present Ichika with a bag of muffins as a heartfelt gift. However, as she nears his door, she overhears that Ichika's partnership with her was due to Tatanashi's plan, and a heartbroken Kanzashi flees the scene. A worried Ichika tries to find a missing Kanzashi, and he grapples with his own feelings of doubt. Meanwhile, Tatanashi makes a grand announcement about the forthcoming tag match tournament during the opening ceremony. However, the arena is suddenly besieged by a quintet of highly advanced golems. Ichika and Kanzashi eventually unite forces to confront one of these menacing golems, while Hoki and Tatanashi engage another. Unfortunately, Tatanashi's efforts prove futile in penetrating the golem's formidable armor, resulting in a detonation that leaves her weakened. This incites Kanzashi's fury as she battles the golem, exhausting her weapon's power in the process. It's in this dire moment that Tatanashi steps in to shield Kanzashi, sustaining grave injuries in the process. Kanzashi finds solace and motivation from both Ichika and Tatanashi, who encourage her to confront her weaknesses instead of fleeing from them. After Hoki replenishes Ichika's shield energy, Kanzashi employs Tatanashi's aqua crystal as a talisman of good fortune, enabling them to vanquish all 5 golems. As they later recover in the infirmary, Tatanashi reflects on Ichika's reliability, leading to a friendly sister-to-sister conversation with Kanzashi. Meanwhile, Maya manages to recover 2 of the golems, prompting Chifuyu to consider notifying the government. Later, Kanzashi presents Ichika with an anime movie as a gift, seizing the moment to confess her affection for him before abruptly running away. In the aftermath, she realizes that she may have accidentally revealed her love for anime instead. Meanwhile, the rest of the girls breathe sighs of relief when they think that Kanzashi is just a fan of anime, and is only interested in being friends with Ichika. Later, Maya summons Ichika to the infirmary for the purpose of taking body measurements to facilitate his enhancements, which leads to his embarrassment. During lunchtime, after learning of Ichika's fondness for the other girls' culinary creations, Cecilia approaches Hoki, seeking her assistance in preparing fried chicken. While Hoki briefly steps out of the kitchen, Cecilia intentionally adds perfume and a touch of fiery mustard to the fried chicken, giving it a dazzling appearance. Upon Hoki's return and tasting the dish, she mysteriously disappears from class the following day. Cecilia subsequently meets up with Charlotte to collaborate on a recipe. When Charlotte later goes to tuck Laura into bed, Cecilia once again introduces the fragrance-infused and spicy mustard-laden element to the dish. Both Charlotte and Laura, after sampling it, mysteriously find themselves absent the next day. Turning to Lingyan, Cecilia proposes they work together on a sweet and sour pork dish. However, Cecilia deliberately sabotages the kitchen pot after Lingyan mentions her electric stove's sluggish heating. Experiencing a sense of disappointment in herself, Ichika invites Cecilia to his room, where they jointly craft rice balls. Meanwhile, at an upscale restaurant, Hoki's sister Tabane, the creator of all Infinite Stratos, defeats all the members of Phantom Task, but offers to make a new personalized unit for Madoka. Later, Ichika and his classmates embark on a serene field trip to Kyoto, with one of the highlights being an evening visit to the renowned Kiyazumi Temple. Amidst the picturesque autumn foliage, Cecilia positions herself near the vibrant leaves, prompting Ichika to snap a photo of the beautiful scenery, but accidentally removing Cecilia from the shot. Later, when Ichika loses his lens cover under a bridge, Charlotte lends a helping hand, assisting him in the search. Later they head to the shrine, where Cecilia, Lingyan, Charlotte, and Laura all strive to capture his attention. In the midst of evading their advances, Ichika crosses paths with Kanzashi, offering her a lift, only to collide with Hoki. Following a pleasant picnic with the girls, Ichika and Hoki take a stroll into a serene bamboo forest. There, they encounter a mysterious woman named Squall, who kindly takes a photograph of them. Ichika becomes curious when Squall departs without mentioning his name, Ichika. Later on, disaster strikes as Ichika accidentally drops his camera from the temple balcony. On the temple's grand stairway, he unexpectedly encounters Madoka, who attacks him while piloting her new personal is known as the Black Knight. Atop a towering structure, Tatanashi engages in a fierce battle with Squall, who is secretly the leader of Phantom Task and who wields the formidable Golden Dawn unit. Hoki and Cecilia, on the other hand, frantically search for Ichika within the temple, but they soon find themselves under attack from Autumn. Meanwhile, the remaining students and staff board the monorail for their return journey to the academy, only to encounter a malfunction that threatens to disrupt their voyage. While eluding Squall, Tatanashi urgently alerts Kanzashi to the presence of a bomb concealed on the monorail. Ichika successfully thwarts Madoka's attempt to detonate the monorail, averting catastrophe. Hoki and Cecilia manage to subdue Autumn, leading to her demise in an explosive climax. However, their relief is short-lived as they witness Madoka stabbing Ichika just moments before a distant explosion rattles the surroundings. Hoki, clutching Ichika, implores him to awaken while the search for the bomb continues. And luckily Kanzashi and the rest of the girls are able to discover and disarm the device just in time. A dreaming Ichika has a vision of Madoka attacking him, but a mysterious young girl dressed in white extends her hand to him. Meanwhile, the girls try to disable Madoka but are interrupted by Squall. Totanashi intervenes to even the fight and divert Squall's attention by shattering her defensive behavior. She signals Ichika to engage them further, but after some fighting, Squall orders a retreat because they got the data they needed. Finally, a troubled Ichika and the rest of the class recover at a hot spring. However, Ichika wonders about his discovery that Madoka had a photograph of Chifuyu, and how they might all be connected in some way. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.